Hey, Scott Fresener and my good friend Richard Greaves with the T-shirt report, episode 23. Believe it or not, we've been off for a while because we were at SGIA, and so we've been goofing off, and so we're going to try and get back in the saddle here.
Goofing
So,
off.
goofing off, yeah. You've been working, I've been working, and it's been hard to find time for this little side thing because I think we made about $8 last month on our YouTube channel
Oh, $8.
for the views. Yeah, this is the high deal, and we haven't got any sponsors yet other than me or my son. Hey, sit back, relax, and enjoy the. This will be our Christmas episode. Maybe not. We'll do another show before Christmas.
Right, are we going to do something next week?
We'll have to do something next week. And
If we don't do anything, we'll get out of the habit.
yeah, I know. This will be the SGIA episode. So anyway, so I hope you guys enjoy. Hey, I noticed you got some sort of a pirate guy behind you. What is those guys? Two skeletons. What's the shirt behind you?
Oh, this pirate guy, now you got me nervous.
I'm sorry, not pirate guy. I'm trying to see what it is. Actually, I know what it is, but
that's the shirt that Lon Winters and his wife, he brought his wife along. She was doing the foiling at the end of the belt in the Garment Zone live at the SGIA show in Atlanta, Georgia.
have you met her before? I never met her before.
I never met her before, but I'm always proud of the wife that is out there to be able to help, that she actually a screen printer, or she can help in the shop. That's always good. Every time I ask Gina for help, she seems to be busy doing something else.
My wife goes, I'm not going. I'm not going anymore. I've done that. Been that.
She's had another knee replacement. So I can't lift anything heavy. I can't get on the floor on my knees.
I know.
All right,
it's a good shirt though. I mean, we were discussing.
It's got like it was a 14 color press, and they were running as many colors as you can imagine, plus the foil at the end. It was clearly in that Garment Zone area. That was the exciting thing, because anytime that they're printing, and Lon always creates these beautiful designs. They're well worth getting. They're very intricate. That's all part of his Newman roller frame M&R continual promotion. A great shirt to have, and I wore it for the first day of the interviews we did at SGIA.
Yeah, it was a good shirt. So you see
now, are you part of the hype now? Because I don't think anybody in America doesn't know that Star Wars is coming. That whatever the new name of it is. So I'm not a Star Wars lover. I never really.
I didn't know that. Oh,
my nephews are, they were born with a laser in their hand. They're a saber in their hand, and the idea that I don't like it, or that I'm not just besmitten about it. I'm a Kubrick fan. I know what.
Well, Clockwork Orange. Hey, but I almost bought a Darth Vader toaster yesterday at Best Buy. Toaster is Darth Vader. So I'm wearing my. There are so many great shirts out. This is the Stormtroopers playing table tennis. I didn't do this. I just bought it. There are so many great shirts out now. But it's just, to me, what was Star Wars? I think it's 1977 was the first one. To think that all of these characters now are back again in all this stuff, and I think it's because Disney is involved now, because I think the marketing is like over the top with Star Wars stuff everywhere. So
Google's partnering up, that they're selling cardboard to put the your phones in, Google Cardboard with the Star Wars things printed on them.
I know.
And things that you would never imagine. Every restaurant in America seems to have a Star Wars tie-in.
It goes on and on and on. I'm just curious who's printing these shirts. I mean, maybe they're coming from overseas. I doubt it, though. But there must be people we know that are cranking these things out, because there's a jillion.
Do you know anybody with an F2000 Epson printer?
I could print a few of these. I thought about a couple for myself. Anyway, hey, if you hear any little noise in the background, I am in the grand building. Mike and I broke down and finally rented a place to do our classes in, and it's kind of on a busy street, and you can hear Can you hear the cars? I can't hear them with my thing, but
wait, I got an ambulance.
There's your yeah, I can hear it on your side. So we're in our new little building. We're going to be doing classes on a regular basis more often now. We're going to try and do classes monthly. We're going to offer maybe a sublimation class and a few other different classes, because now we have a regular shop set up with all the gear set up. The thing was, we got tired of schlepping this stuff into the Holiday Inn every few months. I mean, we are getting too old to be moving the 600-pound Vastex press and stuff. So we, after the last class, said, you know what, we got to rent a place. So anyway, so that's where we're at. We're in the beautiful digs. Next show, when we're kind of set up, because right now, as you know from our pre-show talk, there's no gas yet. They're getting that turned on, and there's other issues with the building. So once we get it set up and running, we'll do a little walkthrough and stuff. So anyway. Hey, I finally unpacked my bags from Atlanta. I think I told you that SGIA, as everybody knows, was in Atlanta 3 weeks ago.
The lights and my tripods are still in the car.
Oh no! Come on, man. It's been 3 weeks.
The poster, you gave me the extra poster that we got
Right?
from SGIA that they kindly had printed for that, which was our backdrop for the stage. That's proudly on the back deck of my car.
Oh, okay. You better get with it. So
So
we're at SGIA.
you're way ahead of me.
Yeah,
I did unpack, but
that's the
uh,
I told you I came home and did a class, and I rented this building, and so I have not thought about Atlanta since the day I pulled out of Atlanta. So anyway, but it was a good show. We had a good time. I want to thank them. We want to thank them for giving us about a 10 by 10 booth for free, which was probably in the grand scheme
yeah.
$3,000. We got a backdrop, pipe and drape. We got tables and a riser. That's another $1,000 worth of rental stuff. So
Hmm.
I thank Johnny Shell and Cast for providing all that stuff for us. I think we look good. You had the lights, we had the video lights. So people walk by are going, there's something going on here. And we did some great interviews, though. I think Rich Hoffman was probably the best interview because he's got high visibility, good storytelling.
Maybe because he's Rich Hoffman, but I also think he was the best interview
Yeah.
only because I was, of course, a big part of his interview story. I got him to tell the story of his very
It's a,
first
it's the best. It's the
tech call.
best story I've ever heard. I mean, what are the odds of Rich Hoffman in his beginning days? You're the first guy he calls on. I
Yeah.
you told me that months ago, and that's the best story. I love it when he tells that too because it's so great. And I love when he says he goes to find out about how a cameo works, and then and they go, "What's a cameo?" And for us old guys, we know what a cameo is, but the young kids will go, "What's a cameo?" So it was a great story.
Well, pray tell, Scott, where can you see that video?
On the YouTube channel, I'm showing clips of it right now. So actually, did he tell? I forgot though in the interview. I should know this. Did he tell the story about getting blown away by chomping into a 440-volt line?
You tried to get him to tell the story. You hinted at it. You teased it, but he did not tell the story of how his dad got him killed almost.
Well, because he told the story at our academy dinner, which we had also one evening. You and I had dinner with the rest of our academy members, and Rich was at my table, and he told the story of as an electrician. His father always told him, "Don't trust anyone who tells you the power is off,"
Hmm.
because he was an electrician. And he says he's at a job site with his dad, and he says, "Is the power off?" to his dad. His dad goes, "Yes," and he says he chomps into a 440-volt line and gets blown backwards. It was his dad. I thought that was the greatest story.
Uh,
But anyway, but
uh,
we talked in the interview, when people watch it, hopefully they'll catch that Rich started off with this little 600 square foot building, and now he's moving into the 300,000 square foot building. So, more power to him. He's a nice guy, and I think he's done a lot for the industry and all that. But we had some other great interviews. We had Artem from Russia. Who would have known? Here's a little Russian guy who owns all the rights for Jimi Hendrix worldwide.
right,
You know,
right. I've known Artem for many years. He's been an Academy member for many years, and our friend Charlie Talbleeb and Joe Clark have both visited him in Moscow, and I have always tried to get him to invite me over, but it doesn't seem to have
and
didn't seem to have worked.
that's a shop I'd
Um,
like to get into because he does 150 line halftones, and he's a Kaza disciple, but
so we had some greats of the 15 or 17 people that we interviewed, but what I was most impressed with were guys like Tom Rowan and Tiffany that are bright new stars. I was so impressed with Tiffany's whole story.
it's a great
So
story. Yeah, yeah. I think as we're getting older, you like to see the up and comers that are someday we'll be gone and they'll be the newbies. But it's great to see up and comers who get that you hang out with guys like us or Charlie or whatever, and that
hmm.
gets you then into the magazines and the trade shows. I think that the smart guys know you got to hang with some of the older guys and meet the movers and shakers, and then you get kind of in the loop and stuff. And so maybe that's probably an ego thing, but I do feel that that's how these guys, probably look at it. So I mean, look at Tiffany.
Now,
She was a Golden Image judge. She did a
mhm.
seminar. You know, good for her.
Now, the people we have to watch out for though are this Tom Rowan. He is doing interviews at the ISS show in Long Beach.
I know he's taking
He's
over our
invited
slot.
me. He's invited me to come
Yeah,
and be interviewed, and
yeah,
so pretty soon, stabbing right in the back.
yeah. I know.
I could see it coming.
I know. Oh,
Now,
good.
I did watch his YouTube video that he did mention the 200 or 300 shirts that he was wearing. That I hate to think of what that actually weighs, but that's quite a good YouTube video.
Smart.
We'll have a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, smart marketing. So the show was good. I mean, I don't know what I don't think it was anything groundbreaking. Uh, I'll throw a bone, but Lawson brought out a $15,000 computer to screen, so that's really cheap. David
Mhm.
told me that he would have liked to bring it out for $10,000, but Ben said no, you can't do that. But that's pretty low priced for a computer to
Mhm.
screen, which is the flavor of the month, as you know. Everybody's talking about that, and so that was a good deal. But I didn't see much else. But sometimes, as maybe like you, although you were out more than me because you were out wandering around, but I didn't get out as much to see every aisle. I tried to walk every aisle towards the end of the show, but sometimes you have to really sprint because that show was long. It wasn't as deep, but man, that went on forever.
And there I am hobbling along with my poor leg and my
Come on,
cane
come
from
on,
end to end.
come on, Greaves, keep up. So,
Yes, but I think that I'm again embarrassed again. I fainted at the Atlantic City and Printed Sportswear show maybe 5 years ago, and my first year that I came back after my stroke, and I was overtired and I was trying to go back to my hotel, and I fainted in the lobby and I landed kerplop on my face and spent 2 hours in Atlantic City hospital till they would let me go. And I'm afraid that's given me a bad reputation now because I don't really understand what everybody was so clamoring about. But I missed a few of the interviews. I,
you were the
I,
talk of the show. You said to me, "I'll be back in 5 minutes," and that morning you had said to me,
I meant it. I meant it. I
"I
meant
know,
every word.
but you broke down on the way to the show, and you didn't get there for the so you were overamped. You were we were setting up your stuff late in the evening after you finally arrived in Atlanta, and you
Hmm.
mentioned that next morning you were a little tired, and so then later in the day you said I'll be back in 5 minutes because we were going to do other interviews. 2 hours later, I'm going, where is Greaves? This is not good. And then Michael Fresener starts freaking out. So Michael goes to the show office and talks to Johnny and talks to Marcy. And of course, none of the new show people know what you look like. So Michael comes back. Have you got a picture of Richard? It's like the wanted poster. you know. So Michael takes a picture off the monitor of you doing an interview, takes it back in his camera to the show office, so all the show people can see because they're looking. They're out looking for you.
Hmm.
And then you know the rest of the story. We then hear that someone has collapsed or had a seizure or something in a booth. Well, we know it's you. Who else
I,
would it be?
I I didn't know it was me. I was busy over the Douthat booth.
So later I talked to Marcy Kidner after this whole thing, and she said, yes, she went to this booth and goes, well, that's not Richard Greaves. so,
I don't know
like,
who that is.
and I'm not sure who this guy is, and we're not making fun of this guy having
No,
a seizure
I,
at all. But we were sure because Michael was following, I guess, paramedics who were going to the booth. We knew it was you because you've been gone for a couple of hours, and you just come walking into the booth like, honey, I'm home. so anyway,
did I miss the interview with Kitson? Oh, that's too bad.
so you were the talk of the show from the show side because everybody was thinking that Richard Greaves had checked out. So
So well after I'm back and we're doing other things, there's a tall, handsome, beautifully dressed man in a suit, and he's got that cell phone that he's holding in front of him, but he's looking at me. And this guy's got the security look about him.
he looked like FBI. I saw him. Thinking,
And he's coming around, and he goes around, then, and he comes around again, and all of a sudden I'm in condition orange, and I'm going, yeah, what do you want there, buddy? Because this guy is eyeballing me. And of course, he's about this much taller than I am. But when he walks up to me, he's got the look. He's got the look of, would you open your bag, sir?
oh yeah,
I met these marshals before in the past. And he, sir, are you Richard Greaves? And, it isn't a, hello,
uh,
because I get a lot of people say, hey, I've read your stuff. Hey,
yeah,
I'm glad are
yeah.
you Richard Greaves? And, yes, sir, I am. I stand right up and I come to attention. He melts. I say yes, and he turns into the sweetest, gentlest father figure that you could possibly imagine. Gosh, we've been looking all over for you. We heard that you were sick, and they're real worried about you in the show office. It was so much fun to see him go from the meanest, the
Yeah,
tough guy that you wouldn't mess with, to the grandfather you wish would give you a big hug.
I
He
saw the
was
guy walking around the
sure I
booth.
was older. I was
Yeah,
older than him, so
yeah. I thought it was wanting your
uh,
autograph. you know? What?
not with that face that he's giving me.
Yeah, he definitely, I think, had an earpiece, and he had that definite, probably talking into his sleeve.
Aisle
But
42, aisle 42.
yeah,
We've got a troublemaker here.
you
So I feel bad because I didn't hear any of that stuff. I did not know. I was having a great time over at Dowfit because they had this guy from Chicago who I thought was going to need some consulting work, and
yeah,
I was helping them out a great deal.
you were working the room for sure.
I was working the room, and I forgot to go back to the booth.
It was a funny
So
story, and we had a good time with the show. But I think that was the highlight of the show. But I'm curious. Every time I talk to you about screen mesh, all you ever mention is Sadi and emulsion.
I'm a full, I love all the meshes. I love all the emulsion companies
Yeah,
equally. Although
I thought
I
maybe
love,
Keith Perkins was washing your car or something, or
I have more friends than just the Saudi people. Is that the lead in for the Sati FX unit, their new
yeah,
exposure unit?
yeah,
The only new thing that I really saw that again is new. I've been talking in this show, not in this show, but in the T-shirt reports of earlier time of the other 300 uh, watt LED exposure units that Ross Balfour and the people at Saudi have been coming out with. They have a new one that's 450 watts. It is lots of little LED units. They're in an array, so they act as one. They have a columnated reflector on them, and it's the new hot ticket. Again, my friend Pierre has got a sample unit that he's converting to use in his old M&R exposure unit using the vacuum and just the lamp. And of course, the great thing about the LED units is that they only use a timer. So I send him an old Gray Lab timer that I had and say, it's just a timer. It's 20 seconds or 80 seconds or 200 seconds. So I was very impressed. I can't wait to actually try this one, which I'll try in Cleveland the next time I go to Cleveland, which would be a little later this month. Um, but I'm looking at the unit, which Ross had out, and I'd actually seen it once before. But then I'm looking at the box that it's in. I said, you know, they had it in a vacuum. That if you needed a vacuum in a piece of glass, and I'm looking, it looks very familiar. Who's making that for you? And it says it's Ryanette. I
go figure.
go, Ryanette. Who'd have thunk it? So I had no idea that they were doing so much metal work. Of course, I see them getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and so they've always been making a lot of their own equipment for quite a while. They make the Hopkins machines now. I'm forgetting what they're calling it. Something that it's the Riley. I should know a little bit better, but they just came out with a new press release that demonstrates that yes, they're making the Ryanette FX is what they call it, but it's got that Saudi 450 watt. Now, don't be fooled by the wattage. It's tuned at 405 nanometers. It's designed for photopolymers. You get very little of the exposure from white light because there just is none. It's collimated. It is, Ross Balfour tells me, and when Ross tells me, I believe him because he's the master. I believe in it, and I can't wait to try it out.
Do you know what it sells for?
Soon.
You know what it sells for?
No, I think it's around $5,000. So. Is it like five ninety
It
nine or
could
four
be.
ninety
Yeah,
nine? It's in the press release. I apologize. We'll have it in the show notes, and
right.
you'll have to dub it out and say, "See, this was." Now we'll dub that in later how much the price actually is.
I can do that.
Now the cool thing, I saw this with the Saber 2 years ago at the Nashville ISS show. It's running on an Android tablet, and Ross is telling me that you can type it up and control it from your phone, or it's those kind of cool things that Android is coming to the screen printing world. So
I
I,
love that. I got to see it. I didn't see it because I was busy doing interviews while you weren't there. No, I'm just kidding. But I definitely missed that. I have to check it out.
I do have other friends, Scott. In fact, really the highlight for me, which nobody can really share in because it's a family only kind of a thing, is that Jan Dunlap, who when I hired her to work at Stretch Devices in 1987, she was Jan Smith, and I hired her and two other people, Rich Mandich and Delbert Densmore, to come and to cover what I was doing at Stretch Devices when I left them. And Jan actually organized about 11 or 12 people, I forgot the count, that were the original Stretch Gang, and a lot of these people have not been in the industry for 15 or 20 years. Um, Don's original left-hand girl, or whatever you'd want to go, his right-hand man, Christine Panasek. She flew in. She hasn't been in the screen printing world for 20 or 30 years. Hadn't been to a show like this. Doesn't seem to have aged a day. Jan Dunlop was there. My sidekick and the first person I ever hired at not a Stretch Devices, but at Shadow Graphics in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania in 1981. Wendy Painter came down. She's in the screen printing world, kind of, sort of, but not really. She's gotten away from the firm. I'm the one who tricked her. I mean, I induced her to come to work at Stretch Devices, and she went kicking and screaming. She was actually there for way longer than I ever was. And it was fun to see those people that I know so well. So many, my old girlfriend Heather McLean was there. Um, Jim Lambert, Delbert Densmore, who I mentioned before, Nancy Gray, who was just admitted into the Academy of Screen Printing Technology. Other people I'm surprised didn't come, like Denny Sprayard, that didn't get invited or couldn't come or something. But for us, it was a real great thing. And it was interesting to hear how impressive the Stretch Gang, which is what we used to call each other. I don't know if that's what they remember it as, but it was an affectionate name for us. But we had a huge influence on the screen printing world because in the early 80s, 1985 to 1990, Stretch Devices and the Newman roller frame were a hot, new, exotic thing. Now, with Sherlocks and automatic stretching machines, it isn't the complicated thing that it used to be, that it was a real badge of courage. When you had Newmans, you knew that you were going for those NASA-like jobs. We all hovered around. We were a bit nervous about whether Mr. Newman would, whether he'd even be in the booth, because I worked the Stretch Devices booth for many, many, many years, and Don's always meeting with the Japanese, or Don is meeting with people that you never heard of on some extrusion thing that you don't know anything about, and he's looking like this, all mean face, and no, I've got to go, with his papers in his hand. We gather around at 11 or 12 o'clock, and who is Don talking to? But he's talking to Michel Kaza and Artem, that's really from Russia, the guy that we talked about, that we like so much. And so we're now going to interrupt Don, the 11 of us. We're going to now interrupt him when he's talking to Michel Kaza. I don't think so. We wait for an hour.
Well, it's a short wait for Don.
But in the meantime, David Landesman comes by, and David Landesman is talking to Wendy Painter. And David had told me a while ago, I don't know if I mentioned it on this show or not, said, Richard, when I hired you to work at Lawson Screen Products, your reputation is very strong. You were a tyrant in your shop. And I really, good. I'm glad that people understood that. And so I got Wendy to answer that. Wendy, tell him. He says, and so David says, yes, I heard you were a tyrant. And Wendy says, oh, absolutely.
Oh, really? Wow.
But it was for the good, that if you couldn't make it in Richard's shop, you couldn't make it. He gave you an awful lot of energy. I'm putting words in her mouth now, but if you couldn't make it, we replaced you with somebody that can actually do it. You only hire the best here. And so it's a good and bad, but it was fun to see all my old friends again. Again, it's an old home week for me, but it was real important for we were a real important force in the industry in 1987,
Who paid for them to come in? Who paid for them to come in?
They paid their own way.
Wow, that's amazing. It's a great story.
Now, we went for a very expensive dinner at, what was it? Somebody's in the city. Ray's in the city.
And then Don paid for that?
We picked up the tab for Don.
Oh, wow.
So whatever everybody ordered, that was, whatever the bill was, we split it 11 ways.
Yeah.
And so my dinner cost me $78.
I'm thinking 100.
Next time I'm ordering wine and hors d'oeuvres and coffee afterwards.
You don't drink, so yeah, that's right. So you came back in. You came
well
back
worth.
In. Yeah.
Well, Albert Densmore, he's been out of the industry for ages. They all paid their own way. They all came. It was real important and a great way to celebrate Mr. Newman. So it had been 30 years since we'd had sort of the second coming, the second tier of employees, not the original employees, but it's been 30 years since a lot of those people had worked at Stretch.
That's a great story. I love that. Yeah, because you make friends whether they're an employee or whatever. You make friends. I have people from US Screen that I still Facebook with. I still email back and forth with. You make friends with those people, and you go back years and years and years. So that's good. Hey, you were a judge at the Golden Images, but you were a no-show because you broke down in Podunk, Ohio.
No, not Podunk,
I know,
Findlay, Ohio.
Findlay, Ohio.
Yeah, it was Bluffton, which I can recommend, the Lieber Garage.
You got 80 miles from home and you broke down.
80 miles from home, and the alternator that I thought had been repaired by my local men, Joe and Kirk's. Shame on you, boys.
Yeah,
Turned out the alternator at high speed, it didn't charge. But I didn't notice a battery light. I didn't see a battery light or whatever. So I get 80 miles out of town. The battery's total dead. So now it's getting to be dark. I'm in Bluffton, Indiana. Where do I go? The great AAA guy takes me down to the Lieber garage. Mr. Lieber's he's an aw shucks kind of a garage back in the dark. Okay, I'm at the Comfort Inn. They call me at 8:30. Okay, it's all fixed. 8:30 the next morning, and boom, I'm on the road by 9 o'clock. Man came to pick me up, and everything perfect. Cars run perfectly ever since. So Bluffton, I've stopped at the Shell station 3 times now, going down and back.
that's
So
good.
I Bluffton, but that's a bit of a distraction. I did not come to judge. I wasn't able to judge, and so I missed it. But I went through the golden images and gosh, I had to do the best of show, which Academy members do, and I prowled around and I was able to whip through the entire group of entries in no time at all. There were the T-shirts that are usually one of the biggest areas. They were just like about maybe 20 feet. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know the count. Johnny had mentioned that it was down. I was judging also, and Johnny had mentioned that the number was down, but I think it was down quite a bit. He had the usual suspects. You had Andy Anderson and people. He had all the same guys, and
Andy and Artem battling it out for tops in full color
yeah,
process.
yeah.
Darks.
There was some great stuff, but you're right. It wasn't the days of just the walls of black shirts where you'd really be overwhelmed as a judge because you had so many to go through. Now the judging was pretty much wham bam, pretty quick. So, but you
And
saw.
I,
You saw that because you judged best in show. You saw the piece that Artem did. That was the graphic piece, the calendar, which
mhm.
we have video of on his thing. That was friggin' fantastic, man. That guy's a great printer. But anyway, yeah, it was interesting. I mean, I like judging. I did the students, even the students, I thought was down. It wasn't this great. It's where you go, wow, students did this. There was some stuff that was like you're going, they actually entered this piece. It's kind of odd. It was too bad. You know.
You and I and Denise have judged the students for the last 2 years, or I did.
Yeah,
I didn't get to do it this year, but they just were not the number, and there were so many one-color terrible prints.
yeah, I was surprised at that. Yeah,
Now you judged the skills USA contest that you and James Ortolani
yeah,
represented SGIA. Wasn't Johnny Shell at that also?
yeah. Johnny kind of runs it
So
for them.
I at the Academy dinner I did volunteer, and so I will be wherever it's going to be
Be a little, oh
next
yeah,
year. So I volunteered. So I hope it's in Louisville. I love Louisville.
yeah.
Um, but I, they just I I remember that last year I wrote down 7 schools where I personally wrote to the teachers and got a lot of feedback from the teachers on what I saw and what I recommended. I was of course wanting to Skype with the teachers or let's do some classes or I can review your stuff or you know we can do all kinds of that never turned out. That is something that I used to do when I worked at Yolano back in the 2006 and 7. But they just there weren't as many totally all around. Granted, there are hardly any graphic screen prints anymore that Michel Caza used to win every year after
Yeah.
year with fine art printing. I don't see any fine art screen printing at all, and
No, no.
hardly any industrial printing either.
No, it's way different, way different. Although in the school, what for the schools, there was some great decals and stickers screen
Sure.
printed that blew me away. But the
Hmm.
T-shirt side was really way off. I was a little surprised at that. Maybe it's just I don't know. Maybe they weren't entering. So,
Well,
but
it's so much easier to do stickers and stuff like that because you print and dry.
yeah,
So you can do more detail and it's easier for a school to do.
yeah, there was some good stuff. So it was fun. Hey, speaking of upcoming events, I told you that I moved into a building now. We don't have our boot camp dates yet for 2016, but we're working on them. And again, we're going to be doing regular classes. So there'll be some classes in January, February, March, April, May. I may regret that because it'll probably snow like heck and people will get stuck and I'll get stuck here, but we're going to do classes almost every month. But Long Beach is coming up, ISS, and it's the 22nd through the 24th. You weren't going, but now you tell me you're going because you got a kind of a deal. What was
I
your
found
airfare? What was the airfare you told me? Some obscene number.
the airfare out of Detroit, the cheapest one on the worst times to fly, and the most disgusting, was like 280, and a normal Delta flight was 359. Whereas if I drive to Cleveland, I can fly round trip for $168. So it's
Unbelievable.
$144 plus the taxes.
Right.
So it's well worth it, and I go to Cleveland on a regular basis to see my clients there. So
So you're gonna be in Long Beach. I'm not gonna go because I'm in Bowling Green and it's just too much. I gotta drive to Nashville, fly to, and I think the round trip would probably be 350 or $400 to Long Beach from Nashville. So I'm not gonna go. So that's January 22nd to the 24th. And as we know, that is the world's biggest show, I think, for garment decorating. We
yeah, it's the show. I'll be
it
doing
is.
interviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll have a great report. It'll probably, we just tell Stefan, it'll probably be 2 hours long.
Stefan is watching now. Our friend Stefan, who we love dearly. There's not much going on in February though. March has DAX, March 4th through the 5th. I'll put the dates up. There's March is a busy month. FESPA in Amsterdam,
What city is Dax?
Kansas City, in Kansas City,
Kansas City.
and then
If I went there, I could eat ribs at.
You've talked about that, yeah. March.
Mm.
FESPA's got Amsterdam at the Rice Center, March 8th through the 11th. Printware's doing Arlington, the 10th to the 12th. ISS Atlantic City, the 17th to the 19th, all March. That's that. And
I'll be there.
you'll
I'll
be
be there.
there. You'll be
Yep.
there. And so we'll maybe I have to try and make Atlantic City. I could probably drive there. Maybe not. March. Who knows? We'll see how it goes.
You want to go with us? We'll
Al, come ahead.
get to Cleveland and
I can do it. We'll think about that.